I'll start this whole thing off with this incredible painting. It looks absolutely amazing, right? So some of you will be familiar with Pablo Picasso. This was drawn by him when he was 14. I mean, I've gone to the museum where I saw this painting and I was absolutely blown by it because I only knew Picasso by a lot of surrealistic, a lot of cubist kind of paintings that he was very famous for. This was absolutely amazing, right? So what happened at 14 or 15 is that he displayed it in Barcelona in a big competition that happens here. Don't remember what the name is. This painting is called Science and Charity. It'd be great if you do some digging up on this. So there was a sensation in Barcelona, right? That Picasso, there is this guy called Picasso. He's made this painting which has got the first prize and everything, right? But this is what somebody on Wikipedia said about this, and I completely resonate with it. In 1897, when he painted Science and Charity, Picasso did not yet exist. When he says Picasso does not exist, the person existed, but he still was formative in the way that he would find his voice, find his true calling. This is a work by Pablo R. Picasso, so Pablo Ruiz. He was still not Picasso, right? A boy of only 15, which is where some of you could possibly be right now. A boy of only 15 who was already extraordinarily gifted technically for painting. The thing that stood out for me, right, was the word technically. And I remembered something I'd read about Picasso. I mean, I'm a big Picasso fan. So this stayed with me, right? Somebody had said this about Picasso at that time. He was born to a master draftsman, right? Draftsman as in a guy who can paint very well, who has extraordinary sense of proportion and all of that. So he was born to a guy who was also a painter. He was born in a family where art was, something that was the conversation all the time and everything. He was already winning competition with his art by the time he was 14, right? He was destined. This line stayed with me for many, many, many number of years. He was destined, after all of this, after winning competition, this is what he said about Picasso. He was destined to a life of pure mediocrity. He had to rise above his talent to become what he really did. Because if Picasso kept on painting this, you wouldn't have, like, if you went to one of the museums where these paintings were hung, you wouldn't have stopped there, looked, taken a couple of selfies, just moved along. Now, if there is a Picasso painting, even one painting, I've gone to Madrid just to see one painting of Picasso called Guernica, right? It's a 110 feet across kind of a painting, absolutely mesmerizing. You wouldn't have done any of that. He had to break through what God had given him, right? Which was just pure talent. मेरे को proportion आता है, मेरे को drawing आती है, मेरे को painting आती है. I can paint realistic pictures. To do something where he broke, something that actually may have been impediment, because what talent can at a lot of times do is it could possibly make you get to the comfort zone, right? You're smug. I am good, right? But are you great, right? That's really the battle. So this was about Picasso, that he had to rise above his talent to become what he really finally did. So this talk really is about rising above your talent, right? So whether you have talent or you have only the beginning of it and all of that, what are the things that it really takes to get to the finish line, to do the things in the most fulfilling way possible? Okay, so what happens, right? So let's say you are a good singer. I really, after 30 years of being in advertising, I really think that all that it does you, it gives you a little bit of a shorter queue. एक singing competition हो रहा है, somebody who has in the past demonstrated, yeah, I've got a good voice and all of that, definitely gets into the choir, but they're not necessarily all of them become, Kishore Kumar's or Arijit or Bob Dylan or whatever. Bob Dylan, right? So Bob Dylan actually barely had a singing voice, right? But he made up for it by being a great bard, right? He became great because he was a great writer, and he strung together a song in the way that became his signature. So he rose above something that God actually had not even given him, but he had writing. So you stand in a shorter queue, आपको entry pass मिल जाता है, you get a hall pass, you can get in, right? Okay. So what happens with talent is you basically get at the door, get inside the door. What do you do with the show after that? right? It's entirely up to you. Talent doesn't guarantee you all of that, right? So what is it that does? Okay, I'll tell you about these. There are lots and lots and lots of such people. Some of them may have context to you. So this batchmate of mine called Ravi Subramaniam, right? Some of you or your parents or your teachers, some of you may be familiar with him. He was a finance bro in college, right? The guy who would be like seriously academic and all of that. Uh, Nobody credited him with something like an imaginative streak in his body, right? He was great with his discipline, his writing, and so on and so forth, his academics and all. But he's the guy who's got the maximum number. He's my batchmate. He's got the maximum number of bestsellers of all, right? So you'll see his books selling right next to Chetan Bhagat's and so on and so forth. He's written Devil in Pinstripes. He's written If God Was a Banker, and so on and so forth. The maximum number of bestsellers, and you never ever thought that he's the guy who will be actually doing something which is a creative pursuit. Even today, he's the CEO of a very large financial institution, still writes books, right? Sarita Mandana, again, a girl you never thought, like very good with academics and all that, never thought that she'd have any creative pursuits. She is the one who wrote award-winning books, not just best-selling. She wrote The Tiger Hill, won major awards internationally and all. Bal, okay. There is a cafe in Delhi, Gurgaon actually, which has repeatedly been rated as one of the top, not one of the top, the top eating place in all of NCR, not just Gurgaon. So he's a good friend of mine, right? So over conversations and not just once, number of times he's told me that I don't know anything about food. He runs the best eatery, right? So continental cuisine, great food, great ambience and all. He was a startup guy, right? He had some startups going on. This was somehow his passion. He wanted to get people together. He said that I don't know anything about food. But what he said next was something was very interesting for me. But I'm willing to listen to people who know about food, right? So he didn't come in to this with a place of arrogance or a place of being know-it-all. He just listened to people, gathered stuff which would help him make the best eatery in all of NCR. So the flip side of it is also true, right? The ones who were very likely to, people thought, I was somewhat creative. I don't have a page of a book to my name. And many others who we all thought like great with the yearbooks and all of that, so much imagination, none of them, zero number of them have had a book to their name or anything even close to that. The people who you didn't think, the dint of hard work and wanting to make that happen got them there. So the ones who did, so what is it that they did right? So it wasn't just the talent, because if you just went by popular perception, they had none of it. So what did they do which the rest of them didn't? Anecdote, while we talk about Bal and Ravi Subramaniam and so on and so forth. These are some of the ads that have come out in the last year, and all of them have either won awards or have created big difference to the clients that we were working with. Now, I'm a writer, okay? So very interesting anecdote. So I come from a very small town, right? So the place where you had 2 or 3,000 people, it used to break my heart. This place that I come from called Khetri, right? In Rajasthan, it did not even exist on the atlas which you used to get at that time. There was no Google Maps and so on and so forth. It used to break our hearts that this little hamlet is not even there in the atlas. Nobody acknowledged that place, right? हमारे को इंग्लिश भी हिंदी में पढ़ाते थे, राइट? सोशल स्टडीज भी हिंदी में पढ़ाते थे, सब कुछ हिंदी में होता था, ठीक है? Now, I mean, my pronunciations were all wrong, so I'd keep to myself and not to speak in English at all. So I remember when, I talked about some newspaper to a friend, कि अच्छा मेरे घर में Pioneer आता है. I said, it's not Pioneer, it's Pioneer. And many, Nike, right? It's not Nike, it's Nike, and so on and so forth. My background have never allowed me to get to a place where I would talk to people in conversational English is just not my scene, right? So that was a critical moment that I realized that I'll have to, right? I have to, if I have to be a part of this, if I have to be a part of the world that comes after this institute, this is a little speed breaker that I have to cross to get to the other side. And as luck would have it, I wasn't just, conversing, I was writing. That's my main job. That's my day job. I write in English, Hindi, whatever. That's become my day job, right? It took more than, what I had started off with, the cue that changed my life, right? Continuing with what did they do right? I really think, okay, like I said, there are lots of people who I have interviewed and hired over the years and seen them, right? Whether they did or did not make it, did they get some awards? And the same thing, whether I talk about advertising or creativity, the same thing would be true of rocket science also, right? I really think the difference that comes about is many things, but one thing more than absolutely anything at all, which is the hunger, the passion to do so, right? Uh, so if I were given a choice to choose between somebody who's 100 on talent and somebody else who's 50 on talent, but 60 or 70 on wanting to make a difference, there is no question which way I would turn. Because I've seen that empirically again and again and again, right? The best copy tests that I had weren't the best writers that turned out or the best, luminaries or leading lights of advertising that came out. The people who really wanted to really made a difference. So why does that happen, right? I really think it happens because the person who's hungry, he's like a knowledge sponge. He's like a skill sponge, right? So you talk in front of them, there is somebody who's more capable or has something to add to his repertoire of arsenal. They'll be like sponges because they'll be soaking things in from them and making themselves better every single day. And they have the humility, right? They don't come from like, I'm talented, okay, so make way for me. No, they know that they are 60 on talent, so they have to make up by doing a lot more. And they work a lot on the craft of it. Similarly, like whatever field you may be in, you'll work to improve the design of the rocket, the design of the biochemical thing that only you people know what you do. And minor, not super important at this stage, but people who are not coming in from a place of, I know how a painting is done, I know how a certain job is done, will also break the rules most. They know what is good, and then they'll also try and figure out how they can make a mark by doing something which is absolutely iconoclastic or even self-indulgent some of the times. This, again, like hunger, right, I think is one of the super critical things. If you meet somebody with, let's say, polio, right, it's been, thankfully put far behind in the country now. But I've been around in college and neighborhoods and all of that, people who had polio. Very strange thing, okay? So they walk like this, they have a very thin leg and all of that. I challenge you to arm wrestle with any of them, right? Any of the people who have polio, they'll beat you, right? Even if you're a gym bro and all of that, 9 times out of 10, they'll beat you because what they didn't have, they made up by strengthening their arms. They always somehow have stronger arms, right? This is true even of professional capabilities or academic capabilities and all of that, like advertising, right? So what does advertising take? You get an idea, right? That there'll be people who will be doing this. Then you have to craft it out, right? That this is the way all the scenarios will be. This is how you'll close the argument. So you have to write it. Then you have to present it to your boss. You have to sell him, right? Then you have to present it to the client, right? You have to sell him. Then you have to sell the vision to a director that I want the ad like this, right? Then you have to execute it. When the ad is made, you have to go back to your client and you have to sell it. This is great. Trust me, blah, blah, blah. This is absolutely great. Then when the work comes out, you have to promote it, enter in awards and this and that and the other. And then you have to sell yourself that Enormous is a great agency. I'm a good creative person, because the next time you build your reputation, gets easier for you to sell. I'll come back to Tarsim later. So actually, a job which needs for you to have the core talent actually of writing, and you'd assume not very much else. More than half of what you actually do is sell. Right? So it's not just the writing talent which got people to where they did. It was also the talents that they developed of being great presenters. Right? So even for an artist, the vision and the execution is actually only very, very little part of it. Picasso was also Picasso because he was one of the greatest salesmen the world of art has ever seen. Dali, he held elaborate pantomimes almost where the whole act of this mustache and so on and so forth, it was an act to make people, yeah. Uh, so all of these guys needed much more than their core skill. However, in even sales and marketing, right? These are all the things that you do. Selling, while in all the others we saw that selling was more important than your core skill. Here you see there are 100 other things that you do that are actually more important than just selling, right? It's not just the core talent that you have. If you're a good singer, you will need other skills. You'll need other people to make you great. Another part of it, right? So the issue with talent also now, right, is that you have, you know, some artist's famous quote only in the future, everybody will be famous for 15 minutes. Now I think this is a new quotable quote. You have to give me copyrights with this. In the future, everybody will have talent, and it's really true. Not, you know, in 2032. It's true roughly right now because there is AI. It's the great democratizer. Everybody can write well, everybody can sing well, everybody can paint well, everybody can screenwrite well, code well, make a film well. AI has democratized. Everybody has what it takes to get a good writing sheet out, to get a good piece of code out, to get even editing out, right? And it's only the years of AI where, if you take mobile network, Snake was when mobile phone began, right? On Nokia 3310 and all of that. AI right now is there. It'll democratize all of this. So what will it take to be amazing when everyone is amazing? Okay, the reading through the tea leaves and all of that is still being done. This is my take on it. A lot of it will not change at all. How do you use AI? How do you use a given context in a way that your solutions are even better than the ones who have all of what AI gives to everybody, which is the 25th hour, which is the hunger for having a better solution, a better design, a better solution to any of humanity's problems or an engineering design or whatever. It'll still be the 25th hour. It'll still be the passion and how you get along with in a group. The more things change, even going forward, what are the basics beyond the talent? I don't think they are going to change a hell of a lot. This is what it's really going to be always about, how great you want to be. Thank you very much.